Until we change who writes the check, we can't change who receives the check. Our guest launched her purpose-driven venture capital firm to address the funding gap in pre-seed investment while also addressing the lack of investment in tech startups led by immigrants, people of color, and women. Oh, yeah. It's Fab Female Founder and Funder Friday on the Startup Live show. Let's glow, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Startup Live show. I'm your host, Ande Lyons, 4 times founder and startup champion to founders around the world. And after raising 4 businesses of my own, I have a deep appreciation for what you founders are crawling through every single day. All those high levels of uncertainty, decision-making. Oh my gosh, that's why I'm so grateful that you carved out time right now, whenever you're watching, to up your founder game, to grab the gems from this delicious conversation that we're having today, because we all know as you do better, founders, your business will do better. I want to say a big yoo-hoo to those of you tuning in live today, and a hearty welcome to all my podcast listeners and replay video viewers. Thank you for tuning in. And if you're tuning in from YouTube, please click on the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. This will allow me to reach more founders around the world and help maximize the joy and minimize the heartache from their founder journey. And to receive an alert whenever we post a new show, well, you got to join the Startup Life Live meetup group. This way you'll get a post every time I have a new founder on. And you might be in a tech company that would really benefit from what a founder is talking about, or especially today with our female funder. And so it's always good to know. So join the Startup Life Live meetup group right there. And if you resonate with the show's mission of amplifying diverse founder voices, then hey, come on over, talk to me, because this is a way to have a greater impact on the startup ecosystem through sponsoring the Startup Life Live show. So now I am so excited to introduce you to, seriously, she is a Boston fave. We absolutely love this founder and funder, the one and only Senofer Mendoza. Senofer is the founder and general partner of Mendoza Ventures, a purpose-driven venture capital firm she launched in 2016 to address the funding gap in pre-seed investment in tech startups. Mendoza Ventures is an early and growth stage Fintech, AI, and cybersecurity venture firm focusing on diversity as an important role in its investment decisions. Roughly 75% of their portfolio consists of startups led by immigrants, people of color, and women. With a strong background in enterprise sales and hospitality design, Senofer is a published author, innovator, and thought leader in the technology startup and VC space. Are you ready? I'm getting out my clappers. Let's give a huge warm welcome to Senofer Mendoza. Just because we're live doesn't mean we can't have a big clapping welcome for you, Senofer.
I love it. Next time I have a board meeting, Ande, I might recruit you.
Let's go. I was pitching at Halt. I was a judge at Halt recently, and then virtually, and all the founders were just so excited about those darn clappers. So I'm so thrilled you're here because you're right down the road from me, Senofer, and we're having an extraordinary spring day today, aren't we? Even though it hasn't completely arrived. Yay.
I'm actually really proud of us for not running down Comm Ave right now, like everybody else. Shiny.
Oh my gosh, Senofer, I stepped outside my door this morning and I gasped with delight because I saw the daffodils were up an inch. I was like, what? Is it that time already?
People listening in California are going to think we're crazy, but it's a real thing in New England.
It really is. And speaking of snow, though, I know, Mia, so good to see you. Mia's in Denver. They just got a ton of snow dumped on them. So I know it's going to be a while before you see your daffodils. But folks, if you get a chance and you want something to listen to when you're driving, working out, folding laundry, waiting in the carpool line, you have to tune in to Mia's incredible podcast, Shit We Don't Talk About. Because she goes there and you are going to learn something about all types of topics, and nobody does it better than this goddess right there, Mia Voss. And Steve Vilkas, hey, how are you today? He's saying happy Friday, everyone. What a privilege to be here. OMG, VC puppy.
He's right there. Oh,
That's
he's on
right.
this side.
It's on that side. Mendoza Ventures is always sharing their VC puppy in their short stories, IG stories, etc. It's so much fun. So yay. And Steve is part of the local group that we have here called Prepare for VC, and they're doing wonderful things in the world. And thank you, Ms. Maria Meslin, Executive Director of our favorite TCN, the Capital Network. She's saying gorgeous ladies. Why, thank you. And here's an organization, Founders, the Capital Network. Maria, can you pop in the URL for me so I can just pull it up on the screen? That would be so wonderful. This organization helps founders around the world really understand those important things like cap table. What are you signing that agreement with a funder? Yeah, really understanding the investment side of your business when you're raising capital. They really prepare you for that. And also they have a phenomenal, and I think you're involved with this too, Senofer, a phenomenal female founder fellowship program.
For applications are launching next week on that. We're very excited.
Yay!
And we've refocused around owning your raise. And so we're so excited for this class of female founders.
Nothing makes me happier because too many companies fold because of who they've got on that cap table. So as Senofer just said, when you own your raise, you're making sure the right people are on there. Yay. Thank you, Maria. I really appreciate that because, I get hundreds of replay views on these videos. So folks, there it is, the capitalnetwork.org. Go check it out. Phenomenal. And this gal right here, Marie Sear, pure deliciousness. All right. Well, we know we're hanging out. We're hanging from, Boston area here today. Folks, feel free to share where you're hanging from. And also, please be sure to comment in, if you have any questions for Senofer during our conversation, pop them in the comment section. I'll pull them up on the screen. And please amplify your brand. Again, these videos get hundreds, sometimes thousands of replays on my YouTube channel. So you never know who's going to be tuning in, and they'll see, what's this business? Oh, that's just what I was looking for. So it's called Amplify Your Brand. And if you do that, we'll be like this with our clappers going, yay, you. And certainly, cheer you on for having the courage to launch and build a business. And we have one more thing to say. Open on Monday. Come on, female founders. Yay. Now that's what we're talking about. That's how you bring it here at the Startup Life Live show. And from Ottawa, one of our favorite brand ambassadors right here, Brent from Ottawa, Canada, sending warm wishes. Happy Friday, Andy. Diverse person tuning in. And this is the beauty of Brent. He really, talk about owning. He really owns his neurodiversity, and he really helps those who are disabled have a voice and get lifted up. And you'll find him on Twitter Spaces, interviewing remarkable people all the time. So let's get into it. Senofer, you have this incredible background before you launched Mendoza Ventures. Talk a little bit about how you got into interior architecture and, how you got into entrepreneurship. But let's start with your first career of exciting adventures.
Yeah, definitely. So you went way back.
Well, there's a lived experience that you bring.
Yeah, definitely. I became an interior designer originally because I grew up in the world of theater and film, and it seemed really stable. So I started working on interiors because I wanted to create environments that everyone could use. So the common themes in my life have been building community and making that an inclusive community. And so I designed 4- and 5-star hotels internationally and did large scale brand interventions for Fairmont and Ritz-Carlton. And we had 2 startups in our living room that needed a COO. And if you can land 900 pieces of furniture from different places in Bermuda on time for a wedding, you can COO a startup. There's no question.
100% operations. Bingo.
Yes, exactly. I basically had this really complicated project management skill set and then a startup in my living room that really needed that. And so I COO'd the startups doing that. And then when we exited, we really looked around and thought VC was great, but that there had been some things that we would like to change about that ecosystem. The first thing being that no one that was writing checks looked like us.
That's right.
And so when we started, that became apparent very quickly. And also that behind the check, there's all this knowledge and expertise. Most people that allocate part of their money to venture capital are really analytical thinkers with some degree of business experience. And to the point that a couple years ago, someone said, I've loved following your careers. I invested in your first startup. And we said, great. Where were you? Like,
Exactly.
we really could have used the help. And so we set out to build an environment around a startup that could help it thrive and succeed.
Oh
And
my
for
gosh.
us, yeah, go
Yeah.
for it.
Well, no, I think, what's so important was what you just said, Senofer, is the fact that, and we see this in our wonderful Boston VC community, you're getting these quote experts who are 2 years out of school, a great school,
Mhm.
and they're very smart and very analytical, and they bring a lot to the uh, analyzing the deal. But if they're talking to a founder, female founder, and she happens to be a mother of two or three or five kids, they're not going to have an appreciation about how they're building this business at the same time, or how they may take a little longer to do that. And so often
Mhm.
and then they don't have, as you mentioned, the lived experience that brings, like, yeah, and as Mia Voss said right here, wow, the hotel construction industry is no joke. Kudos. You're right. You had to deliver. You had all these experiences of delivering, but you understood the process of doing that. You're my favorite kind of VC. You're an operator VC. You're someone who understands the mechanics of the business, plus you've walked it already. But I want to go back just a little and find out, had growing up with theater people,
Mhm.
they're artistpreneurs. So you had role models, yes, for
Yes, I
entrepreneurship?
did. I did have role models, and one of the ways that privilege has affected me is that my grandmother owned a business, and so it was expected that the women in my family would do something interesting. um, and then I had my first job to help support our family when I was 14, and I was working in a restaurant. And so I've
There we
always
go.
been surrounded by entrepreneurs. And if I'm really honest, when I went to college, it wasn't encouraged. For a long time in colleges and universities, you were not encouraged to be an entrepreneur, and that's probably why I was so attracted to it. um,
No, no, Senator, don't go that way. Here I
yeah,
go.
exactly. Or business school is not for you. Okay, I'll just do it then. um, and so that the people that wanted to do that were just people that I wanted to be around. And every designer usually has their own LLC, because you need a
That's right.
consulting umbrella. And so Adrian's and my first business together was a design firm. And so this is our fourth business together. And so that's always just been part of my life.
Everyone, please join me in sending out big mwahs and yoo-hoos to Adrian Mendoza.
Yes,
Please connect with him
definitely.
as well on LinkedIn. Seriously, a wonderful human, delightful man in every way. You will thank me for that introduction. And congratulations to you and Adrian for moving through businesses together as a couple and still staying together because
Yeah, yeah.
and raising children together. That is a real nuclear relationship, folks. So I really love that you've done all that. So I know that you had these other businesses and you exited and all of that, and you saw that, who's writing the checks, and folks, even VC firms with a lot of women in the portfolio, so to speak, as partners, there's still a review committee, right, Senator, that's going to say yes or no to writing the check. That woman can't say, "Oh, hey guys, I'm going to go put 1.5 million into this deal." Okay, right?
Mhm.
Don't they have to usually check with the founder of that VC firm?
100%. Anyone who ever has to write a check ever has an investment committee. In your home, this might be your partner or your parents, depending on your situation. But usually a business cannot allocate money without process. And so as a founder who's pitching for VC, one of the best questions you can ask is, what does your investment committee look like? What is your process for investment committee, and how often does your investment committee meet, or what is your timeline? It's a great way to flip the script on the VC and get some transparency into that process from them, because it's different for every firm. For us, we intentionally grew a firm that's a little bit flatter so that we don't have layers of investment committee. That our investment
Right.
committee is fairly inclusive of our firm. Our fellows help contribute to that, and the 4 partners are the ones that sit on that investment committee. Depending on the size of firm, there might be 5 layers before you get to the final decision on investment committee. And so getting any transparency into that as a founder is a huge asset.
Folks, did you hear what Senofer said regarding turning the script? And if you need the top questions to ask investors before you take a check, you come talk to me. I've got that list for you. It's really Alex Iskold was the one who pulled it together. He's a great VC investor out of New York, but these questions are so important. But Senofer's is so important because you need to know how that fund operates. And so I am going to be highlighting that on a snippet for sure. So thank you for that. And we're trying to give you a little bit background of how VCs think and operate. What is their agenda? And Senofer's being so transparent today with how it functions. So when you went to launch the fund, because again, it's one thing to launch a business, it's another story to launch the fund. So what, you and Adrian were having coffee one day and said, why not? What happened? Like what? Well, we've done all this. Let's go launch a fund.
Let's just start a VC firm.
As one does when they're having
it was
coffee.
his idea first. Yeah. It was his idea first, and I was wooed over to the cause. So he said, I want to start a VC firm. And I said no. And then he, we've had a bunch of entrepreneurial experiences. And so I wasn't sure if we were ready to dive back in, honestly. And so it had to be a conversation that we were transparent with each other about. And we made the intentional decision after meeting with a bunch of founders and really deciding that we had more ability for impact in this space as a funder than we necessarily did as a founder or someone on a core product team. And so that became really important to us. And so we met with about 150 to 200 founders before we wrote our first check. We did a lot of process. And so our first fund was 4 investments across 3 companies, one in AI, one in Fintech, and one in cybersecurity, to make sure that we knew what we were doing. We really wanted to prove out our process with our own money and the money of a couple of friends that we knew could really take the risk before we opened up a fund. And so we did that. That did very well.
So I'm saying you used your own money.
We used our own money, and then we
fund.
took in money from a couple of friends who'd also exited startups and things like that for Fund 1. We then set out to launch Fund 2 once we'd hammered out our process. And Fund 2 was set to be a $10 million fund, and we oversubscribed it to $13 million, which was really exciting. And as soon as we hit our minimum, we were able to drop the minimum commitment for the fund and include a bunch of people who otherwise would not have access to venture capital. So if someone was a woman or a person of color or an underrepresented founder, they could come into our fund with a much reduced minimum to make it as inclusive as possible, so that our goal, our entire team is diverse. Adrian and I, as the GPs, are a woman and a person of color. So that's the gold standard that we're setting.
Yeah.
So we looked at, how do we find founders that look like us and help them? And how do we find funders that look like us for our firm, so that we're increasing the access to a moment that could be generational wealth creation?
That's right.
And so our real goal is to diversify what generational wealth in the US looks like. We can't do that if we're only taking money from traditional VC sources. So at each step in the firm's creation, we've done whatever we can to pull other people into the rooms of decision and into the capital stack that otherwise wouldn't be there.
Wow, that's huge. So when you said you were able to lower the fund, you still had to bring in accredited, or did you go through an equity crowdsourcing platform so folks could come in that way?
So we wanted to keep the traditional LP relationship so that we could create a lot of transparency. So we didn't do a crowdsourcing platform. but more people are accredited investors
Yeah.
than think they are. So lots of senior partners at law firms are not investing in venture capital who are women or people of color, and they're accredited investors. And so we've reached a level of accredited investor with a smaller check size than a traditional VC firm would reach.
Excellent. So you're talking about and folks, here are well, Senofer, let folks know what an accredited investor has to have.
Yes, definitely. You have to have over $2 million in assets. That does not include your home. So that's the number one thing. And there's a couple of different tickers, and you can Google this and all the proper tickers pop up. Or you have to be making over, I think it's $250,000 a year, or be a knowledgeable professional. And a knowledgeable professional is someone that works in investing or in finance. So VC Puppy is a knowledgeable professional because he's a senior associate at a VC firm. He's an accredited investor. And so most established professionals in the US are accredited investors. And I actually, Andy, this was funny. I just had this experience last week where when we started investing, I wasn't sure that we were accredited investors. I thought you needed a certificate or something. I thought that you had to get a piece of paper. And there's no certificate. It's just if you meet these criteria, you are an accredited investor. And I brought in a woman to our fund 3 this week who also thought that you needed a certificate. So she got her CPA to write a letter saying that she was an accredited investor to give to me, which was laughing because women always look for literally the certificate to say that you're ready to do something.
Could you validate that, please, for me? I
Yeah,
can't just say it. I'm not worthy. Please, I
and my
need a
team was
certificate.
teasing me. They're like, "There's no award that you will receive for doing this."
But you may want to do one with the puppy on there, just saying, "Okay, here's one to share, if you need that."
Exactly. I'm pretty sure we can't do that for the SEC for some reason, but yeah. But by bringing and there's all sorts of different ways to do inclusion. Arlen Hamilton came up with a really different model where she could crowdfund by slicing off a piece of her GP entity, which was awesome. But for us, we really wanted to pull someone up with the experience of VC as well, and so we wanted to keep that LP relationship. And it'll take all of us doing all the things to diversify the capital stack.
Thank you for that. And it's so important that your mission as well as your vision, but the mission to make sure that you are onboarding investors who meet your diversity requirement, as well as the founders coming on board meet your diversity requirements. You are walking the talk. And again, I'm going to go back to our wonderful, Boston is the home, folks, of venture capital. I didn't know if you knew that. I'm old enough to know that. And so I've been watching. I used to be a private banker. I had a whole portfolio filled with VC folks. But if this is the scoop, they talk about it. Someone just wrote a beautiful, heartwarming post about it, but there's no scorecard. And so nobody's saying, okay, you said you were going to diversify, but I'm looking at your team. I'm looking at who you're funding. I'm not seeing it. You, Senofer and Adrian and the wonderful folks at Mendoza Ventures are walking your talk. And as I started off the show, this has been said many times before, but we don't change who's writing the check. We're not going to change who gets the check. It's that simple. It's pattern matching. So I'm deeply, deeply grateful for the work that you are doing and keeping it easy. And I, by the way, participated in Arlen Hamilton's equity crowdfunding. I couldn't jump on that fast enough. Folks, equity crowdfunding allows just anybody. You don't have to have all those non-certified requirements to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so exciting to be able to throw down $250 or $500 and be able to participate in a fund. And rather than go on vacation.
I did $250. That was my buy-in. So I'm also a proud investor.
Yay for them.
That's awesome.
Arlen. But there's still a lot of things that you had to do in becoming an investor. And sure, you had great experience, work experience, lived experience, you were founder experience. But did you take any courses to become an investor? I see this a lot. Let's get you trained to be a good investor. Did you take classes? Did you have mentors? How did that go?
There are so many amazing tools out there now to make VC more accessible that were not there. We started in 2016 and we had to talk a fund admin into taking us on as a client. Thanks to Carta and so many other tools, that's not the case anymore. Um, NVCA has a VC boot camp that they do every spring. NVCA is the National Venture Capital Association, and they do a training every spring that one of our fellows, Lena, is actually doing now. And that's a great training. Ours came from NAIC, had an emerging private equity training that we did that was a day-long boot camp in Washington, D.C. that was fabulous. And we really just voraciously tackled other people that were doing what we wanted to do at different levels and won them over to answer the phone. We ended up with some really great support from big private equity firms like Grosvenor and places like that, where people who knew best practices were teaching us how to do our job. And that was great because VC and private equity can be different. And there's VCs a lot softer in their approach and in their documentation, but we learned best practices from private equity, which set us up for success to have larger funds later in the life cycle of the firm, which is awesome.
Oh, I love that. Can I just have us a little moment right here because it's just it's an Andelicious moment, everybody. Even investors have to up their game. And so getting that training makes sure that you are doing the best for your founders, for your fund, for every point that you are touching as an investor. So thank you for that. And folks, as I mentioned earlier, one of our favorite executive directors right here in Boston from the Capital Network is sharing some great links right now. Okay. The first one is a link for new accredited investor definition. You're going to see it on the screen. I'm going to capture it and I'll put it in the notes so that you can understand you could be an accredited investor and not even know that. And so check sizes, and to that point, check sizes can be anywhere from 5 to 25,000 to 50,000 and higher, correct, Senofer?
It can, yeah, anything. I mean, I
Yes.
invested in Arlen's fund for $250, and that's what I could do that week, which was great. And our first check that we wrote at all was $10,000, and it was terrifying. I don't want to sugarcoat that. We have a very comfortable relationship with risk, and I was still trying not to shake while handing the founder a check, which at the time was coming out of our grocery fund. I was like, well, I hope no one steals these numbers because there was no proper structure there. That all came as we learned how to do all that. And so I say, if you can save up $10,000, you can change the world, because that $10,000 check for that founder was potentially more impactful than the $5 million checks that they got later. And it taught us so much, and it taught them so much, and it created a snowball in their company that now their company is one of the up and coming Boston unicorns, which is awesome.
Okay. Oh, I have goosebumps on that one. That is so wonderful. And right, yeah, $10,000 can change someone's life, folks. That's amazing. Now I've got to bring up a quick howdy do to Gabe, who's in the midst of launching in a stealth startup. I'm so excited to see you, Gabe, from Connecticut. He's saying great talk as always, but it's great to see the fellow founders in the thread. And then Marie just, she's just filled with wealth today of information. So now she has a wonderful link from the government about introduction to investing and general resources and news alerts, et cetera. So I'm going to be grabbing that link as well and putting it into the show notes. And, because she's so generous, let's get one again.
Thank you, Marie.
And this is the NVCA, that we are National Venture Capital Association.org/education/VC-university. That's going to work out great. I have no idea why StreamYard split your name up when they shared that, but that's so great, Marie Meslan. This is why you want to be with the Capital Network, folks. It's because that level of support is there for you every day. So what did you learn? Like that first year you launched your fund, you started, making those investments. What did that first second fund teach you about future raises? How did it inform, decisions going forward? Did you have any whoopsie daisies?
Oh my God. Yeah. Andy, how much time do we have? Yeah. It taught us it taught us so much. I think the first thing that it taught us was that we knew what we were doing and that you cannot shortcut diligence. For us, one of the things that differentiates us is that we're almost like a private equity venture capital hybrid. There's 12 to 15 companies per portfolio, per fund, so that they can get a lot of attention from the firm and we can wrap resources around to help that company excel. You cannot do that when you're investing in 100 companies out of a fund. It's just too many people. And so what you end up doing is splitting your time and picking your winners early so that you do spend the time on those companies to make sure that they excel. So as part of our model, we spend 2 to 3 months in diligence with each company before we cut the check. We learn to trust our process and to really hone that down. That by bringing in a technical expert to really look at the tech, that will serve everyone down the line.
Yeah.
And that we are that whole process, it's a lot and it sounds like a lot. But that whole process is designed around help or get out of the way because
Yeah.
we've been founders. We've had to explain our startup for our supper to someone who had no idea what we were doing before, and it's deeply frustrating. And so we pull in people with real expertise in what we're looking at to help with the diligence so that you not only get that diligence box checked if someone looked at it, but hopefully all the founders walk away from that conversation with something helpful that they can do this week or a new ally that has different
Yeah.
contacts than they have to be able to help them further their business.
Okay, folks, we've got to stitch that on a pillow. Help or get out of the way. Come on. That's a wonderful mantra, folks, because you've been there with the investors. You're on the fence. They're not on the fence. They've just forgotten about you or they've gone over here. They're not about adding value to your game. You and Mendoza Ventures clearly are so thoughtful so that when you're going through your due diligence, you're giving the founder feedback that they need so that they can go on either and meet more people, do better, but they're not hanging out, waiting and thinking this is it. And also, you're not going to leave them feeling with their tank empty. You're going to increase their social capital, make introductions, etc. If that is warranted. So I love that. Something fierce. And Gabe, you're absolutely right. Trust the process. Such underrated advice. Seems like common sense, but oftentimes overlooked for the fear of missing out that has taken over lately. What are your thoughts on that, Senofer?
There hasn't, so we get a lot of, "Oh, but I'm closing next week," or, "Oh, this is not gonna be on the table," and there hasn't been one that got away that I'm really sad about. Usually we say, "Okay, well, that's fair, and if you need to take the money that's in front of you, go right ahead. You should do that if that's the right thing for your business," but then it's not necessarily a fit for us because we're not willing to risk that money in front of making sure it's a fit.
Yeah.
What we found is that now that we've been at this for a little while and people have heard about us, founders are willing to wait to put us on the cap table if it is a fit, or that also usually doesn't happen. Like, VCs don't actually run into meetings waving term sheets saying, "Sign it now before I get on my plane to Cabo." That doesn't actually happen. So the world
Sorry,
of
that
VC is
image.
fairly small. Maybe now I have to do that someday to a founder, but yeah, I'm running out the door. Like the
No,
world of
you're
VC is
you're coming
fairly
with me.
small.
Sign it quickly because I got to go pick my kid up at soccer practice.
Yeah, exactly. You have 2 minutes to close this. The world of VCs is fairly small, and if we want to work together, we will. And also, I think I see a lot of founders forget that they are the founder of their company. It is their job to run their company. They shouldn't depend on me to do that or not. The deals that we have participated in that we're super ecstatic about, all those founders were saying, "This is happening, and I would like you to be part of it." It's not, "This is happening if you come in," or, "This is happening if you join us." It's, I was not the linchpin holding that business together because
Right.
as you grow, that can never be the case.
That's
And if you
right.
have that mindset earlier, if you're driving your train, I'm not driving your train, that
That
tends
and
to help
and
the entire race.
and I imagine that's why we all like to see traction, folks. Bootstrapping is a good thing to get traction. What are your thoughts about seeing founders with traction?
Yeah, I mean, every VC likes money. Like we're not in this business because we're allergic to money, and
Mhm.
so traction is just Traction or proof. So we invest in pre-seed and seed.
Yeah.
And so we have invested when product is very early, but there's been other forms of proof there to show that this has a place in the market. Um, Everybody loves revenue who's in business. You can't
Right.
replace it. And so as fast as you can get there, especially if you're an underrepresented founder and you can get yourself off of the VC cycle sooner, it helps.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, this whole conversation is prefaced by the fact that you saw a gap in pre-seed, and especially for the tech
Mhm.
companies, because sometimes they need a little lift to get into beta and out of beta. And so that check is going to really help them prove their value proposition. But what was this gap that you saw, and especially in your category of fintech, AI, and cybersecurity?
Mhm. It feels like there's a lot of money in the industry now because there's been so many headlines about allocation. But in the world of private equity, the pre seed to seed stage is still wildly underfunded. No one really wants to take the risk of investing in a company before you have a product or millions of users. It's a lot easier, understandably, to raise money at the C round or for a SPAC right before you're about to IPO when you have a bunch of things already going on. And those proof points are there. And so we found that there was a gap in the pre-seed and seed in AI, fintech, and cybersecurity, especially for underrepresented founders, to get them to the point that they could then go raise an A or a B round. And that has gotten a little bit more funding in the past few years, but not nearly at the point that later stages have.
And do you feel that this helps differentiate you from all the other VC funds? And with all due respect, I'm on Twitter, so you'd be surprised at the incredible, vibrant startupville on Twitter, everyone. And every time I turn around, someone's got a VC after their name, and they've got a new fund, and they've just raised 10 million. I'm just, what? So is this how you're differentiating yourself from the other VC firms, improving your value prop?
We really see venture capital as an industry as collaborative over
Oh,
competitive because
great.
you're not going to get from pre seed to IPO with one VC, usually, unless your birth name was Andreessen. It's not going to happen. Um, VCs have to work together to make sure that we are growing healthy companies. And so we don't really see ourselves as pitting against other VCs on the cap table. We see ourselves as complementing other VCs on the cap table. And one of the ways that that is most complementary is that we look more like the founders, and the people who are in our capital stack look more like the founders. And you need that in your capital stack if you want to have a voice to it.
Awesome. Hey, folks, I have been remiss in not sharing that I'm giving away today my 7 slides every founder must have in their first pitch deck. That's right. It's a template. You can just pop in all your fonts, your elements, everything, your colors, your words, but it has great guidance. And these are my top 7 slides that I know from having co-hosted a pitch event, plus raised millions for, in VC money and thousands in angel money myself as a founder, that these slides are so important. And one person who commented live today is going to win that at the end of the show. Just thought I'd throw that out there for you guys, because you always win when you show up here at the Startup Life Live show, but one of the commenters wins a little something extra every week. So you've been at this now for 6 years. What's your vision for Mendoza Ventures going forward? What does a successful outcome look like for you now that you've evolved over the years?
There's no question for us, a successful outcome is generational wealth in the US looking like the population of the US. That's why we're doing this, is that we are self-made, and startups and the tech ecosystem provide access that other industries can't within a generation. And so for us, a successful outcome looks like lots of really funky, diverse founders making lots of money and creating more funds and creating more companies, and then the chief product officer getting frustrated with them and spinning out their own company and us funding it, and just this amazing cacophony of diverse capital is what we're going for.
It kind of sounds like a street performance in Harvard Square with all sorts of different.
Yeah.
You're bringing that visual, folks. This is Senofer has done this, okay, in the past. So as a theater person. I just love that vision. That is so important because this is the landscape that we're in here. It is multi-talented, multicolored, multi-gender. It's all filled with really interesting, capable people. And to be able to focus on that with your investments, I just love that Something Fairs for that Mendoza Ventures is really going after that. Can you please share your top 3 to 5, perhaps best insights and advice for founders seeking funding? You gave us a great tip earlier, which is how to flip the script on the VC, but also I'm sure from your experience as being a founder and now a funder, you have some great advice for those view of the newbie founders and wannabe founders and side hustling founders tuning into the show.
Mm-hmm. There's so much.
Where do I begin?
Exactly. So the first thing, and this always sounds really cheesy when you say it, but believe in yourself sooner. Because when we started this firm, I thought I would be in a support role, and then I raised our first $1 million. And so you just need to try it. You just need to try all the things, and you will learn so much faster by doing than theorizing about it and trying to fill in your own skill set more to try it. Just get out there and try it, and you'll learn quickly who might write you a check and who might not. And also value engineer your time. If you are a woman or person of color and you are pitching a VC that has not funded a woman or a person of color in their track record, it's 2022. It's not because they haven't met one. It's because it's not making it through committee. And so look at the track record of who you're meeting with before you waste an hour of your time to see if it's a fit. And if it's not, go find the people that are funding people like you, or raise differently, or do venture debt, or whatever it is that it will take to get your business accelerated. Keep your eye, I guess that's the third thing, is keep your eye on that focus, that you are running your business, not your funders, not the other people in the startup community, wherever you are, it's you. And so you're in charge of that success or failure, and make sure that you're staying aligned with value engineering your time in that direction.
I have to say my favorite out of all of that is value engineering your time. I was Jill Johnson had a wonderful event last week, and she talked about that. You're pitching for money, which is so important, but how much? Sometimes, and what is the process that you're going to be going through for that check, and how do you continue being the leader of your company and implementing, so working on it and in it at the same time. I love that, Senofer. Now, you spoke earlier that you have a tried and true due diligence process that really has given you deep confidence, so that when you do hand over that check, there's less shaking going on. And so
I did stop shaking.
Yeah. So, but that's important too. You've got to have a certain thing that leaves you feeling like, okay, we've done our best to figure this out. Can you tell us a little bit about that due diligence process and what you like to see in founders? And I know and again, repeat the industries that you prefer to invest in.
So we invest in artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and financial technology. And the reason for that is that when we started the firm, it was the two of us, and we're geeks from Boston. And when we figured out what we could easily vet with our network, that was the answer. So that's why we started there. And we've kept those verticals in the past fund because those are still on fire. So the number one thing that helps with our diligence is that we hold ourselves to the same expectation that we have of our founders, is that one person cannot know everything. I am not the cybersecurity expert on our team. I am the marketing and enterprise sales expert. There are other people that know more about even that in different verticals than I do. And so pull in experts as you need them to fill in your own information gap. And sometimes this is the hard part, listen to what they say. We've learned that, that can sometimes be hard when you have a really strong thought or feeling about a direction for your business, and someone with more expertise or different expertise is telling you something different. So we give ourselves 24 hours to process
You gotta
and
sleep on that.
implement into action. Yeah, exactly. And so that's big. And then overall, we look at product, market, and team. Over time, I have seen those 3 legs get kicked out from underneath the business and take it down. So the product has to be built. It has to be out of the founder's head in the world somewhere, getting kicked around by someone who's not a direct relative. Um, those cuts, we try and weed out those customer reviews. Of course, mom loves it. The market has to be ready for the product. We see this in AI a lot. AI is very advanced. The market
Yes.
is not always ready for AI that is quite that advanced, because it freaks people out because we've all watched too many Will Smith movies. Um, and then the team, is this a team that can do the endurance run of execution on a startup? It is not a sprint. It is not something that you're quickly done with and then through. And if it's not that team, are they surrounding themselves with people that can fill in those gaps for them? And so we write a full memo on those three things over the 3 months.
I love that. And what are the attributes of a founder that you think is going to be in it for the long haul? What tends to be the common ingredient, perhaps, that you see in the founder that you know is in it to win it and stay through it, no matter what?
That's a great question. I think, HBS has written 100 books on this, but one of the biggest attributes that I completely underestimated when we started was flexibility, was the ability to communicate an idea to different people from different backgrounds. And this is one of the reasons that we look for diversity on the founding team, is that if you're culturally flexible enough to work with someone from a very different background, you can most likely sell your product to someone from a very different background, or recruit someone to your team from a different background who has a skill set different from yours. And so my working theory that is completely unresearched other than my own experience is that that is one of the reasons that diverse teams are outperforming so much right now, because they have to work with someone so different from themselves, and everybody has to be on the same page working towards the same goal. And that on the founding team has proven to be a marker for performance for us.
Oh my gosh, that's phenomenal advice. Everybody, you taking that in, be flexible. That doesn't mean you're doing your yoga every day. It means that you are flexible in your heart and in your mind, and you're open to possibilities and with whom you work, with your customers, how people show up, as well as your ability to articulate what it is you're doing. And when your customers give you that feedback, right, Senofer, you go, okay, I hear you. I'll stay flexible because clearly you want me to deliver this instead of what I had my heart set on. And that's where profitability and sustainability land. Oh, God, that's pure deliciousness, as we like to say here at the Startup Life Live show. So now you have, of course, years as being a founder, now as a VC fund. You have had those moments that we all have when we're sitting there as a leader feeling very inadequate, lots of doubt, like and then of course, my favorite hashtag, why bother? Because feeling so doubtful about myself. What have you used to shift your mind out of that? Because folks, that's what's beautiful about mindset hacks. You can shift yourself out of those thoughts and back into something that's going to work for you. What did you use? What have you used over the years, Senofer?
So the first thing is get the help you need to shift that mindset. I had to work with a coach because when we started the firm, anyone who knows me well knows that imposter syndrome shows up to the party sometimes. And it was when we started the firm. And I was pitching the firm in a way that was disempowering myself in the language I was using. And I had to get coached around using proactively positive language in talking about myself, which was not something I'm proud to admit, or
No,
and
but
it came down to a moment where my co-founder sat down with me and said, "This is getting in the way, and I know you're working on it, but if it doesn't get better, we have to find someone that can do this job, because it's disempowering you from doing the job that you're doing. And that is not just a disservice to you as a person, it's a disservice to our founders. It's a disservice to the people that gave us money." And of course, I stayed totally calm. 24 hours later. Yeah. Totally took that advice right away. And I realized I can't do this by myself. I'm too in my own head. I need help. And so I got an amazing coach who helped me unpack where that voice was. Yeah, right. Who helped me unpack where that voice was coming from, and really and really look at why I was disempowering myself in the moment. How is that helping me? And so I've worked through that, and that's been great because I am surrounded by phenomenal people, amazing founders are lucky to I'm so lucky that they include us on their cap table, and amazing people have given us money to manage and put on that
Mhm.
cap table. That's a really beautiful place to wake up every day. I'm really lucky that this gets to be my job. And so I really didn't want to mess it up, and that's more important. One of my favorite quotes is an Audre Lorde quote where she says, it is um, when I use my strength in service of my vision, it becomes less and less important whether I'm afraid. And I realized in those moments I was choosing the fear over the vision.
That's
And
right.
so I wake up every day in service of the vision of changing the world where 1% of all capital allocators at all are women. Not that they manage 1% of the money or that's an inclusive 1%, just women at all. And so that cannot be the world that my daughter needs to get funded from. And
That's
that's a
right.
great place to go to work every day. It was worth getting all the help and getting super uncomfortable and trying a bunch of different things to
Yep.
overcome what I was going through so that I can wake up and continue to do that every day.
Oh my gosh, Senofer, thank you so much for being so honest about your journey. And founders, take that in. It's okay if you're feeling those feelings of inadequacy and you may be using the wrong words about your company due to whatever lived experience left you feeling hollow or inadequate. And it is a solvable problem. And founders, I know you love solving problems. So do what Senofer did. Go find that person, invest in yourself so that you can do better, feel better, and that way your business will do better. I know you've got to feed the family, you've got to buy the next round of inventory. There's a lot of pull on your financial budget. But at the same time, this is worth dissolving, this kind of chokehold on your business. So get the help outside you need, and also talk to your peers as well, because that will really help you. Thank you for that beautiful, well, I'm just going to have to say it right here with a big clap. That is what I call fabulous founder journey advice. So, Senofer, one last question before we pull the lever and find out who won the 7 slides that I love best. And it's a template, it's a PowerPoint, folks. It's not just something you're going to look at, it's something you can populate, okay, and learn from. Entrepreneurship, I always say it's the best personal development program out there. You just showed us, I mean, you got so much better from the journey. How has this whole entrepreneurship journey experience served you both professionally and personally?
Professionally, tech and venture capital have given me opportunities no one would ever give me. I mean, and I think this is I just keep throwing founder advice in here, but this is more founder advice is that I am naturally an inclusive person. No one is going to invite you to have a successful business or make room for you to have a successful business. You do also need to sharpen your teeth and go make it happen. And so it has given me that ability to be an executive who drives a company and makes decisions, and I love it. I work hard to become better at it every day. And then personally, we had this experience recently where my kids had never been to New York. And so we took them to New York over February break. We had a little meltdown about that being the case, and then we took them, and they drove through Times Square for the first time. And my husband pointed out the window at the NASDAQ billboard and said, "See, honey, that's the billboard that mom was on." So my 8-year-old Latina's first impression of Times Square is
Right.
that's the that big finance billboard is what your mom was on. If I stop tomorrow, like, that's good. We did a good job. I'm not stopping tomorrow, no one worry, but, like but that
That was
sort of
it.
impact is real.
Oh, that's a beautiful story. Thank you so much for that. Okay, folks, I'm just going to do a quick screen share here and bring in the wonderful StreamYard giveaway tool. You guys know how much fun this is. Come on. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, it didn't grab everybody. Oh, Bummer. Okay, well, that's all right. Don't mind me. I'm going to do the draw, and we're going to watch who wins the 7 slides. Andelicious from today. Gabe! Woohoo, Gabe! All right, Gabe, you are a winner. As we say in Boston, you're a winner right there. And this is
yeah,
what
you are.
yeah, you are. Exactly. And this is what you'll be getting. It is a PowerPoint template, easy to populate. I sound like somebody from The Price is Right. You're kidding. But it's a fun template, but it's also in the best order and some great information for you to have an even better pitch deck and an even better experience. So I'm so thrilled that you, oops, sorry about that, folks, that you tuned in today and participated with your comments, Gabe. Wow, he's saying thanks. And yay, hey, Gabe. Brent, I just want to answer your question. 75% of Senofer's portfolio is diverse, and I think your whole team is diverse, correct?
So our entire GP team is diverse. And our extended partners, we have one immigrant and one dad from Cambridge who we call our inclusion hire because he's a white male from Cambridge, Massachusetts. His name's Adam Kerr. He's great. And so actually now it's 80% of the money that we have given at Mendoza Ventures or invested at Mendoza Ventures has gone to a woman, immigrant, person of color, or LGBTQ identifying CEO.
Great.
Not on the founding team, the CEO role, which is important.
That is very important. That's the leader who's sharing the vision, folks. And yay, Gabe. So I know how to find you, Gabe, and I'll get you that document right away. Oh my gosh, Senofer, I can't believe we just went through this so quickly. It was so much fun. Any last words for folks before I pop you into the green room and wrap up the show?
Definitely. I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. Ande, it is such a joy to spend this time with you. I really appreciate it. And you can find us we're on LinkedIn and Instagram. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions about Mendoza Ventures or VC. And just remember that you can do this. And if you can't, get help.
Exactly. Solve that problem.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for joining me today, Senofer. I'm going to pop you into the green room and go ahead and say hello to everybody on this final bit as we wrap up the show. I know you grabbed some gems today. I mean, my gosh, one right after another from Senofer, who is a founder and a funder. So she knows what you're going through, and she really made the journey a lot easier with her advice today. So I'm so grateful she tuned in. Let me share who's coming on next on the Startup Life Live Show. We have on Tuesday, March 22nd at 12 p.m. ET, we're chatting with award-winning freelance journalist, author, and the founder of C. Jane Wright, Javasia Harris Bowser. And Javasia helps women transform their lives through writing. And she just published her first book, Find Your Way Back, a collection of essays that demonstrate how Javasia used writing to achieve some of her wildest dreams, such as being a public speaker, having her own column, and being her own boss. The book also explores how writing, self-love, and faith helped her overcome her worst nightmare, a cancer diagnosis in 2020. So, folks, this is an amazing woman. We all need to write better, to share our thoughts, have a greater impact, and for many, to earn more money and income. But also, I will be giving away a free copy of her book. So be sure to tune in live, leave a comment so we can pull that lever and do all that confetti for one of you wonderful viewers during the live show. Until we meet again, whether it's next Tuesday or the next Friday or whenever you can tune in at replay, my podcast listeners, please know I'm going to just take you through one of my favorite little quotes here from A.A. Milne. And this is, promise me you'll remember that you're braver than you believe, stronger than you seem. And as we say here in Boston, you're wicked smarter than you think. So as Senofer said, you've got this. Go do it. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Wishing you a delicious day everywhere you glow.